Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Chris Detzel. This podcast starts now.
Welcome everyone to another Peers Over Beers. I'm Chris Detzel, and I have a special guest today.
Wow, I'm a special guest.
A very special guest. You've never been on Peers Over Beers.
I know. Why has it taken so long? I'm offended.
I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
So many people want on. It's just hard. No, I'm just joking.
You're so popular. I just have to wait in line. That's fine. I'm happy to be here.
I didn't introduce you. You're supposed to introduce yourself.
Sorry. Just assume, right? No, just kidding. I'm Lauren. I'm happy to be here. Lauren Clevenger. I am the global head of seller community at Square.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Peers Over Beers. Really happy to have you. And, I think I can't remember, but so this guy, Jake, we know is part of he is kind of the owner and CEO, founder, whatever, of this thing called Dinner 5, right? And so basically he has 5 community leaders, sometimes over to his house. They meet virtually, used to do this on-site thing. And I think we met. Did we meet on-site? Yeah, at his house.
Yeah.
And and it was just 5 of us, talking about community kind of stuff. And that was what, 2019, 18 or something?
It was pre-pandemic, pre-world changing. But yeah, I think that's where we met too. Although I feel like I was familiar with your name in the space for a while and, kind of knew of maybe, but we got to meet at Dinner 5 and love Jake, love this event and this program that he runs. I feel like it's truly one of the most special community events that I've ever been to.
It's pretty cool.
Just the idea where it's 5 people and, back then we were eating in person. We were at Jake's house having this amazing, foodie heaven catered meal. So creative, so cool. And it was, it's like that magic of a super great dinner party, except it's people that know exactly what it's like to be you and do your job and share your challenges. And we're all doing the same thing. We're all kind of at the same level in our career and our programs, which is also huge. And
which makes a difference.
Yeah, those are magic conversations to me. And obviously you form good bonds where we had the one dinner together in 2019. Now we chat all the time over Slack, and now we're here, Peers Over Beers.
Yeah, I just thought, you've never been on Peers Over Beers, and I thought, wow, Lauren needs to be on. So here you are.
I did bring a beer.
Oh my gosh, you're the first person ever to bring a beer on.
Really?
Except for me, of course, but thank you. I know it's a little early, so I don't necessarily expect you to drink it, but feel free to open it up and drink it if you want.
I mean, I haven't had lunch yet, so this would be my pre-lunch.
Ooh, that'd be great.
It is a light beer, so
exactly.
I think I will, because I am thirsty. Is that weird?
No. This is Peers Over Beers.
Okay, so I'm doing it.
Oh, take a sip.
Peers Over Beers. That's my commercial for you.
Oh, this is great. This could be a nice little clip that I can just cut out and. Well, today's topic, we were talking about it, and I really like it. And I don't know that we've had too many conversations on Peers Over Beers around how community works with the product teams. And I think it's so important. So I'd love to hear, and I've got all kinds of stories, but since you are the special guest, I would love to hear about, your past and how you've worked, with product teams. I know, think of ideation and things like that, but there's probably a lot more you can do with product teams on community.
Yeah, I think it is a super important cross-functional relationship. Yeah. Especially if you're, in a B2B community, especially if it's a support, primarily a support function community. Relationship with product is so huge, and really the tighter relationship that you have with product and engineering, I feel like the better value you'll be able to bring your community members through, to your point, a whole host of things, whether that's content geared around the product success or product releases, whether that's a feature request platform, some kind of like ideas space in your community, which we could talk about forever because those are tricky to do right. And I feel like everybody has a horror story about an idea site gone wrong. There's so many great events and things that you can do to prop up releases and be part of like a go-to-market strategy within your company. That is something that was super important to me when I was at Big Commerce, where I was there for 6.5 years, managing our customer and developer community programs. And we did a lot with product, and it was really, really, really great.
Yeah. And I want to kind of go deeper because I think it's important. And on some of these podcasts or, things I hear people speaking about kind of that, it's at a higher level. So I'll probably just dive in a little bit deeper on how we're doing it, and would love to kind of get your response and, or, maybe even other ideas. So today I own two pieces of what I call our community. So our online community, where mostly technical folks come in and talk about the product and need help with the product and just have questions. So that's one piece. And on that piece, there's a lot of PMs, product managers, that know the product inside and out, and engineering. And like you said, engineers are really good to kind of dive into. So that's one piece that I need their help on to answer product questions. And so I have a really good relationship with the PM team, and they help go in. I have a Slack channel that, I kind of, hey, I have this question that somebody needs help, and somebody goes on to the main community and answers that sometimes, and things like that. And then the other piece is on the community specifically, is that whenever we have product releases, so we have them 3 times a year, and so whenever we have a release, I invite every single person, on the community directly to that. And we'll probably get over 100 plus people on those release. Everybody's interested in what's coming out, on the release. And so just giving the product team an avenue to do that. But then I think to even go a little bit deeper is, so I have these community shows that are both for, going deep into the product, thinking about what's coming up in the product, or even thought leadership type stuff. So I think that, giving the product managers access to your customers and even partners at a high, kind of more of a, instead of one-on-one, you have 40, 50, 80 people coming to these shows that we do, scaling it as much as possible. So giving them opportunity to talk about one piece of that release. So if there's a new product or there's a feature in there that you can go deep for an hour long, and going and showing people how to use it. So you think about the adoption piece and people understanding how to use it and things like that. The last piece, I own our, what I call, it's an advisory board, but we call it the Reltio Executive Council. So we have 20 of our leaders on the executive council, but we also have our CEO, we have our chief product officer, our CMO, and whoever else at that level wants to come but the key is having our CEO on there, Manish. He's kind of the thought leader in the space of master data management, but also our product person. And so like we have one coming up on October 6th, and we've got kind of this new thinking around our product that we want to kind of release to the market. But what he's going to do is present that, and we'll allow the executive folks to respond to it, to give input, and those kinds of things. So when you think of those two levels, on the technical level, but also the executive level, the things that I'm providing the product teams are technical, kind of go deep into the product, adoption, buy-in, whatever. And 2, I'm also giving them thought leadership opportunities. So let's say in the space they want to, hey, look, let's stop talking about the product and let's talk about the space of data, data governance, data quality, master data management as a practice, but not a, whatever. And so can you talk about that? And if so, let's talk about it and be the thought leaders in the space of all things. But then I'll also kind of go to market type stuff from the executive level. I said a lot of stuff there, but
no, that's all really cool. And I haven't had a chance to have a kind of like a cab program or an executive council before, but I love that thought that you're doing things to kind of do it at scale, right? Yeah. Like product manager presenting about thing or speaking to a wide audience at, a time either in asynchronously in, an online community space or in a webinar live to attendees. But then you're also getting that super high quality, very distilled, like these are the opinions of the thought leaders, the movers and shakers, our most valuable customers, and let's take them right to the source, our leadership. So I like that you have both sides of that. I think that something that is worth talking about, and I don't have all of the magic answers here at all, but I think this is a struggle. I definitely don't. I have none of the magic answers, just a lot of attempts over the years. But I think it can be a struggle depending especially on the culture of where you work. You kind of just never know is how to make those inroads with product and leadership to make these things happen. Sometimes I think you can go into a place and they're like, yes, let's do it. And, like folks are really on board. It doesn't take much convincing. And then sometimes you can go in somewhere or maybe a new leader comes in and they're like, oh, we're very busy or we have a lot of other feedback sources. So no thanks, or get in line. I feel like in my previous work history, I've experienced both sides of that coin. One of the great things when I started at Big Commerce a long time ago was that immediately when I came in, literally the first thing that I heard from our CEO was him wanting to meet with me to start a kind of like a webinar program around our releases to connect our product managers to our people. He was like, we need this in the community. It was such a breath of fresh air. And our CEO was like, and I want to be on this webinar every single month. And while I was at Big Commerce, for 6.5 years, I think I did like almost 70 of them every single month. It was a total beast to produce. So at times I feel like I was like grumbling.
I think you should have made it easier for yourself.
Oh my gosh, what a concept.
I'll tell you an easy way to kind of do it is, and none of it's easy, by the way, but so let's say we had a product release, and on that product release, we had 3 new features, and they're big. One could be data quality, one could be something around survivorship, the other one could be around, something else, right? And I think to myself, that's 3 webinars I can do, right? Like on this one release, we talk about the release because that only comes out 3 times a year, but then from there, I can build a whole 3 or 4 other webinars specifically around each release. And then I would reach out to that product manager and say, hey, because the show, I call them community shows, because the shows are so popular now, I think some of the PMs really want to get out there and actually do one. And so I'll reach out to the PM and I say, hey, look, I want to do one on this data quality. And not every PM is going to be excited, or every person is excited about the same thing you're excited about. But if you can kind of and you've already done it, but get them kind of excited about promoting themselves, promoting them as a speaker, promoting their product, and that kind of stuff is the key. But I've had one almost every single week since I started at Reltio, whether it's around product, the PMs or, somebody else doing some shows. But the onus is on them in a lot of ways. So I'll produce it, I'll do it all, but they'll have to create a title and the description. And of course, all the other content, right? But just give me the title and description. Let's pick a date. Boom, it's out there. And now they're on the hook. So I'll go produce the card. I'll push it out into the invite onto the community. I'll get all these people to come, but you're gonna have to build a PowerPoint, all this stuff. And they know because they're the ones doing the demo, doing whatever, and that's it. I mean, and so I've had one and it's. Look, you have to produce it. You have to push it out when it's done. You have to push it out on YouTube. You got to put a card on there. You have to cut some things. You got to do a bunch of stuff. I'm not saying, but it's not nowadays with all the tools with Camtasia, some other tools that you might use. It's somewhat easy. Canva. It's still very tactical and still probably takes you an hour or two per thing. But I don't know. Thoughts. Very tactical, but
I think that what you highlighted, it does come down to, probably more than these two things, but these are two big things. Is one, you have to make it easy for whoever your partner is in product, or, that just extends to like every cross-functional effort and community ever, in my opinion, is like, I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, how can I make this as easy as possible for them, while having a balance between like me obviously just like not doing the whole thing or whatever. Like they are the subject matter experts, they're bringing something to the table, but I want to be their true partner. I want to understand their workflows, like their tools, their things, so that I can make it as dead easy for them to step in and like deliver something to the community.
Yeah, I like that.
But I think the second thing that you touched on is, really tying into what is their intrinsic motivation to be a part of this. Like product managers are super busy people with a ton on their plate. And oftentimes, I think that some of these community things, depending on the culture of your organization, are kind of like nice to haves, like they can have so many demands coming from so many different areas. So I think the more you can make it easy for them, the more you can tap into what's in it for you, right? Like that's like our community bread and butter, like the psychology of like, how do we get people to engage? Like it's the same thing when working cross-functionally. So your point about, does this help them improve their skills as a speaker? Does this, like, are we sharing this on social networks and they're getting notoriety in their field? We ran for many years at BigCommerce on the developer community side of things, a really great developer blog hosted on Medium. And I would work with our product and our engineering team to, write content for that. And they really had free reign a lot of times, besides the content briefs and the editing and all that stuff that I was doing to help make it easy for them and help make them shine. They had a lot of creativity to write about what they wanted to write about, an engineering topic or a development topic, a framework that they were passionate about that related to BigCommerce in some kind of way, of course, for our audience. But that to them was the what's in it for them. They were getting an opportunity to build themselves as a thought leader in their space. I'm getting the benefit, and our community member users are getting the benefit of all of this amazing shared knowledge and conversation. So it's kind of figuring out like what is it for them, and then really like helping them succeed at that thing.
And I think, as you kind of think about content, whether it's the beauty about some of these webinars is that, and I tell these PMs, hey, look, I'm going to get the webinar out. You'll get some video. We can make some quick hit videos if you wanted, push it out on social and, you saying some smart things. And I said, the other piece is we can blog about all this content you just gave. I could probably write 2 blogs around it. And what I'll do for you is I'll get the blog written, you go to upwork.com or whatever and get somebody to write it. And then you'll have to edit it. So I can get you 65 to 70% of the way there. But you're going to have to add some pics and just, because this person's not going to know about master data management. It's very complex. So, they're just going to do what you said. And, the tone is going to have to come up to you and you have to change some things. And even that's hard for people to do.
Yeah.
But it sure is a lot better than starting from nothing to write a blog. You know what I mean? Like writing blogs are very difficult.
It's a specific skill set, for
like
sure.
you said, if you can get people there, and help them to get 50, 80% there, and just say, hey, look, there's going to be some time commitment. But I mean, if I can get 1 or 2 blogs out on your behalf and you're publishing everything else, so you do I love that piece because you have to make it as easy as possible for them. Still work, but
yes.
No matter what, there's work.
You're still asking for help. They're still doing work, but the most that you can reduce friction, the most that you can set them up for success, or, like you're talking about maybe on the back end, help them edit. Sometimes when we would work with either someone in, product and engineering, say we might start, if they were interested, we might start them out with doing kind of like an interview style blog post in one of our community spaces. Super easy, right? Because then you can either just like straight up record a conversation, transcribe it, clean it up, or you can just send them a Google Doc and be like, answer these 6 questions, and then I can take it back, clean it up, boom. All of a sudden,
they've got something published. Just push a picture in there, Q&A with so-and-so.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly. Still an exciting moment for them, still a content win for us in the community. So that's what it's all about.
On a side note, it's funny because as you're saying that, I own this community called DFW Running Group, and it's a Facebook community for all of Dallas Fort Worth, and there's 4,000 people in that community because I've cultivated it, did some things. Facebook's pretty easy too to kind of get people in.
I love that you have like a side personal community that you manage too. That is like the true heart of like a community professional. Like you're doing it professionally and personally.
Yeah,
hats off to you.
Thanks. And so I created this website. And I thought, it's called dfwrunninggroup.com. That's all it is. And so I was like, what is helpful to runners? And my thought was, people are wondering, one of the questions that they always have is, where can I run? What group can I go run with? And so there's literally, and I just came up with this the other day, 18 running groups in the DF, just probably more. But I found 18 running groups in the DFW area. So I just created a blog. And I asked a question, right, from the DFW running group. I said, hey, who's your favorite running group, that you run with? So I came up with 18. There's more, I'm sure. And I just put it in a blog, 18 running groups within the DFW Metroplex, right? And then I just put them all, put links in them, little blurb about it, and so what I'm trying to do is create content, SEO over time, for people that are within Dallas and all the things, same concept, right? Like if it's around your product or if it's around the space, the PMs become leaders in that. And then sometimes you can ask your community and then take that, not to get off a little bit, but I'm getting off a little bit, but take that content and push it out as a blog or, consolidate it and use it. These are just basic tips and tricks, to do, but you got to take it. You got to use it.
That is something that is not always thought about. And it can be time consuming. So I think sometimes it can fall off, but the power of repurposing content is so huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to, kind of forget about it, but say you do that great webinar with your product manager, there's only a certain percentage of people that are going to be able to attend at that time, or that care or have the time to watch the recap. Like, let's be honest, like even as a community person, I'm always like, is this going to be recorded? And then it's like, oh, whoops, it's like past my brain. I have totally forgotten to come back to the recording. Like that just happens with everybody.
Yep.
So it is so important to remember how you can repurpose content, how you can give it legs to, be extended and be valuable past that moment. And then remembering that like not everybody learns or intakes information the same way. So that blog post where you're doing a roundup later of a conversation, that might be the thing that is so helpful to somebody else or shows up in SEO later and is like,
That's the
ding.
piece I was going to bring up is, the other piece is, and I think you have to think about what is going to be helpful to the community and also what's going to be searched out, in the future, right? Like if it's like somebody's going to type in, a year from now or 6 months from now, something about, Reltio product release on, I don't know, whatever, data quality or something like that, or data quality for Reltio, or even just data quality or whatever. And if I'm on the first page, they're going to at least look at that and think, oh, what else is there? Maybe they read it, maybe they go, if I embed that video into the blog, maybe they're going to listen to the video, or if I can cut, which is a lot of time and effort, that video that says something about that specific piece of the blog, would be really great. But I think content, if all you could focus in on is content strategy-ish that is engaging to your users, that is key. I think that is a huge, big thing, an opportunity, especially if it's an open community, right? Like if it's closed, I probably have a little bit more difficulties kind of thinking about, well, although content's important, but it's only important to this closed community. You know what I mean? So
I'm probably going to butcher this. And I definitely don't have all of the details, but a long time ago, I watched a CMX video from like a previous CMX summit that I did not attend. I don't know what year. That's why I did not do my homework to bring this up beforehand. So I'll have to give better credit later. But it was a woman named Bridget, works at Atlassian. And at the time, I'm not sure if she still does, but was running their content strategy for the Atlassian community and gave this amazing talk around their content strategy, so much so that I have referenced it for years. It is so great. But one of the things that she talked about in that presentation that really inspired me, and I kind of took that idea and ran with it and kind of reshaped it to work for us at BigCommerce, was she had this whole section in that summit presentation talking about how they work with product marketing managers for all of the different product lines at Atlassian, and offer them, I don't know if this was her words or what I turned it into later, but kind of like a buffet of options around product releases and product lines. So she literally in the presentation showed the Trello board that they use when they're working with product marketing managers. I think you could extend this to product managers or whatever. Yeah. That's where I'm going with this. But it was this great way to show the content that is available and the opportunities that community can provide to support a product or to support a product release. So it could be like, hey, so I don't know, for team supporting Jira or whatever, we could do an AMA with you. We could feature you on the next town hall. That was our webinar program at BigCommerce. We could write a blog post. We could say this is a new product. We could set up a whole group or a section of the community or around this thing. So, but the idea was really like showing it out, a buffet of options, so that you always had a touch point in these conversations to articulate what is possible with community. We did this at BigCommerce, like I said, very inspired by this presentation. And we did the same thing where we had a Trello board, and I worked with our product leaders and our product marketing managers to develop kind of like a tiered system of how we looked at releases. Like, is this a tier 1 release? It's like a big deal, like a big press, yay, all the way down to like, this is a tiny changelog level fix in our product, like button moving here. And for each one of those categories or tiers, I would say, here's my recommendations of how we can bring this into the community. I would recommend for, say it's a tier 2, then we're going to bring it up in town hall. We want to feature it. We want to have a whole section of you presenting it. We want to get a product blog written about it. We want to do an AMA, whatever. And I think like the opportunities there are endless, and it will be really customized based on your users, your product, your organization's interests for how deep you want to go with this, as well as your own team's resources to produce these things. But that was a huge turning point for us at Big Commerce, was to really take control over the narrative of how can we help you, product, with these launches through content, through engagement, through events. Here's our buffet of options. Let's pick and choose. And it really like inserted us in a very meaningful way into every go-to-market, which before, in the years before, that was more us just kind of like raising our hands and being like, what about community? Don't forget about community. Or our product leaders only thinking about the one thing. That town hall event, or like your community show kind of thing, like they knew that was the one thing, but we weren't ever expanding or thinking about how we could move beyond that.
We can help amplify your message through community and all these other, I love that. And it's a really good idea. When you say events, do you mean just like, were they virtual or were they on site, or what?
I mean,
how did that work?
In I'm saying events in kind of like the virtual webinar sphere, at Big Commerce, but I don't know, it could be more, like your executive council, maybe there's a once a year in-person event that flies everybody to HQ. It aligns with the product management, like planning cycle for the next roadmap, like there are ways to take this kind of stuff in person as well.
We try to meet once a year. But I think that's a pretty good idea. It's another opportunity. It doesn't have to be for every council member, but it could be for those that are interested in, even having more of a say in our product roadmap and how we plan for the year,
Yeah. And that goes back to that intrinsic motivation piece, like I'm sure that those individuals that are on your council, they are motivated by the idea of really being able to shape the future of the platform. So tapping into that motivation, that can be a really powerful thing that makes them feel special and helps the business too.
And something they always talk about is, we need customers to tell us about this thing or, whatever. So there's a lot of things that you can launch. So just, you got me kind of thinking is, we have this, let's say we don't today, but this once a year kind of product planning. And I'm going to push my product leader and get his thinking is when we bring in these Reltio executive council members, right? Like, however many, 5, 10, whatever. And they come in and help kind of guide us. We help kind of get, this is our thinking. What do you think? Blah, 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 whatever. And it's a face-to-face thing. Maybe it's a half day or something like that. I don't know, whatever it is. And then as we kind of start thinking about, hey, we've developed this thing, these leaders aren't the ones going to be, using the product on a daily basis, but hey, since you are a big part of this, we would like for your organization to really test this, before we launch it, before we kind of think about, you know what I mean? Because it was your idea or whatever, right? And so now you've got more engagement from not just the executive council, but also their organization, with their technical folks and everything else. And it's not so hard to find people to, especially for us, we're a small company, right? And so we're always begging for, shit to do, or customers to do some shit, and it's not easy for us, and there's no real program to really do that. So it could start with that executive council, stuff, and then kind of funnel down into their own organization. And then, plus marketing wants case studies and all this other stuff. We have big customers that spend a lot of money with us, but we don't have just an over and abundant amount of customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, well, we have this program that executive council does this for the product, but also the organization really. Then we can funnel that, help. And then we can also start thinking about, at the marketing level, how do we market you? How do we get case studies? How do we do all these things that can be helpful for there's probably a better way to do it than we do it today. It's interesting. Anyways, sorry.
Always there. I mean, I think that's like the thing about community, and it's probably the same for you. This is year 11 or 12 for me. And there is literally never been a shortage of new things that you can do or things that I haven't done yet that I want to achieve with a community program or ways to make something better. Like never, ever, ever a dull moment or a satisfied moment where it's like, we did it. This is the perfect community.
That's the beauty of having a job, right? Is you hope that, there's always, for us, there's always something to do. It's not like, and a lot of times we can create our own paths, or community paths, right? Like, since we own the community, we can guide and tell you what, and so sometimes that's hard though, because we don't always know. It's like, well, what's next? And I have to think every year of something else to build. There's never, like, you're never satisfied with the things you've already built. So I got to do a lot of stuff over here, but I also have to think about this stuff over here, right? And it's like, oh my God, I want a user group program. Yeah, I want, a super user program. Yeah, you can't do all these things until, you have some people and you've got to somewhat build up. When you start a community from ground up, you can't just all of a sudden have a super user program. I don't think, I can't. Who
can't
are
boil
they?
the ocean kind of vibe. There's no shortage of things that can be done. The name of the game is like, when is the right time to do those things?
Exactly. And so that's where I'm at today. But
Lauren, do they align with your goals?
Yeah, but a lot of those things already align, right? Like, some of these things you already know what you're going to have to go do. I'm not saying that a lot of this stuff is not going to steer away from building a super user program or whatever you call it, or those things are still going to be part of community, to some degree, champions program, I don't know, whatever you call it is doesn't matter. But it's been really good.
Yeah,
really appreciate you coming on.
A great chit chat.
Yeah. Well, that's really the first time we've had just a one-on-one chit chat like this, I
know. This is nice.
We'll have to do it again if you're interested.
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot live, but it's not really
I'll
live.
come back.
Oh, great. Well, thanks everyone for coming to another Peers Over Beers or listening to us. We'll be both on video and audio, of course. I'm Chris Detzel and
I'm Lauren Clevenger.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Chris. Bye.